Hey Slavic Vikings, or I should say Slavic Magyars, since today's video is about the Polish-Hungarian Union. I've already made a video on the Polish-Swedish Union, and we all know the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, but I've never heard of the Polish-Hungarian Union before, and it turns out it happened 3 times in history. So when I found out about this union, I had to make a video on it. So first of all, I have to make it very clear that these unions are not full integration like the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, even though there were still many differences between Poland and Lithuania when it comes to governance. They were very much integrated, and you could definitely call the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth one country. However, the Polish-Swedish Union and the Polish-Hungarian Union, they just had the same king, and they just had like government cooperation. Poland famously is not very good at their successions of their kings. They often lose their kings and their nobles have to pick new kings, and therefore Polish politics throughout the history are very chaotic. So in 1370, Kazimierz III Wielki died without any sons, and he was the king of Poland. And because of that, the nobles elected the current king of Hungary, Louis I. So then, for 12 years, this new king, he ruled both kingdoms, both Hungary and Poland. And this was very rare for one king to rule such a huge area back then. It was around 800,000 square kilometers. However, Poland and Hungary even back then were very different. So therefore the Polish nobility was very annoyed that Louis preferred ruling from Buda or Budapest. So he promised Polish nobles special privileges. It's called the Koszyce Privilege of 1374, and he basically did this to secure his daughter's succession. And his daughter is Jadwiga of Poland, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But in short, this Koszyce Privilege was basically just about lowering taxes and giving more democratic privileges to the nobility. And this was a very important part of Polish history because it was when the nobles started to gain a lot of power. This increase of power by this Hungarian king in Poland is what inevitably led to the downfall of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And that is because the downfall of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth is largely explained by liberum veto, or the power of the nobility later in the centuries, where around 10% of the population were nobility in Poland, and anyone who was a noble could vote for a liberum veto, where they could just close any legislation without an excuse. So it's this Hungarian king's decision which caused a butterfly effect that inevitably led to the downfall of Poland. When King Louis I died in 1382, his elder daughter Mary inherited Hungary, while Polish nobles rejected her rule and instead invited her younger sister Jadwiga to take the Polish throne. So there were 2 sisters then ruling Poland and Hungary, so it wasn't a direct union. This second one is the least union you could say. But when Jadwiga was crowned king of Poland, she was just 10 years old. And yes, that's right, I said king, not queen. She was one of the only people on earth to be crowned king despite being a woman, to emphasize her legitimacy despite being a female, which is kind of sexist, but whatever. So this was kind of a dual dynastic leadership of the 2 countries. It in practice worked a lot like a union like the one 2 years before that. So, in 1386, Jadwiga married Jagiellło of Lithuania, who then became Władysław II Jagiełło. Without Jagiellło's marriage to Jadwiga, there might have never been a commonwealth. So then basically, because of this, in 1386, Poland and Hungary started distancing themselves from each other, and instead Poland started moving towards Lithuania, where later they became basically one united country. If we skip forward almost 60 years, Władysław III, this time of Poland, was crowned the King of Hungary during the Ottoman threat. During these 1400s, the Ottoman Empire was creeping up Europe and the Balkans, and Hungary was in trouble. So the famous, amazing Polish-Lithuanian army was very attractive for the Hungarians. So therefore Hungary crowned Władysław III of Poland to also be the king of Hungary. So the Hungarians were very desperate for leadership during this period, and they didn't care that Władysław III was only 16 years old. But sadly, only 4 years into his reign, he died in the Battle of Varna, which was a crusade. And interestingly enough, his body was never found, and therefore there were a lot of myths and rumors that he might have survived. It's also worth noting that Hungary and Poland fought many times side by side against the Ottomans and other threats, so throughout history, despite not always being united, they were friends for many years. Much like me with my ex, Hungary and Poland truly completed each other. Since Poland had a lot of grain exports and they exported a lot of grain to the south, while Hungary had wine and salt going to the north. Another thing that helped the cooperation between these countries in this one kingdom was the fact that they were both Catholic countries surrounded by mostly Orthodox countries. So this Catholic faith really helped cooperate, especially since religion was very important during the Middle Ages. Another very big difference worth mentioning is the language, since Polish is a Slavic language and Hungarian is a Finno-Ugric language, which is closer to Finnish and Estonian than it is to Polish despite the proximity, which is absolutely insane. That's why Hungarian sounds so goofy. So these three unions throughout the Middle Ages obviously failed only after a couple of years every time, but I would say they look pretty cool on a map. And the nobility of both kingdoms always were jealous of guarded independence. Whoever was the native king always got a lot of shit from the other side. And in history books and in school, these unions of Hungary and Poland are hugely overshadowed by the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, which was more successful, more long-lasting. It lasted hundreds of years compared to like 5, and obviously much more powerful. The failure of these unions paved the way for Austria, or I should say the Habsburgs, to dominate Hungary instead. Very sad, I wish Warsaw could dominate Hungary. But we all know the memes of how Poland and Hungary nowadays are BFFs, because they both have very much conservative and nationalist values. We all know Orban is an anti-democratic Putin cocksucker. He loves China. He loves just simping for dictatorships, much like Trump. And Poland also has some dictatorial, authoritarian tendencies, although I would say it looks better in the last couple of years, maybe except the last presidential election. But ignoring that, Poland and Hungary nowadays are very close. They're both part of the closely integrated Visegrád Group, which is Poland, Hungary, Czechia, and Slovakia. And both Poland and Hungary are the two countries that are most open for this cooperation between the Visegrád Group. And in fun fact, Poland and Hungary are such good friends that in 1939, Hungary refused to let German troops cross to invade Poland, which I think is kind of cool, despite, they kind of gave up to Germany and kind of joined them, but ignoring that, they at least didn't want to attack Poland. But anyway, that's it on the Hungarian-Polish Union. I tried to keep all the most important information. Check out the video on the Polish-Swedish Union. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you're going to enjoy that video. Let me know what unions you want me to cover next. Check out the history playlist for more videos like this. Maybe consider subscribing and liking. And as always, farewell, żegnam, and goodbye.